coffee cup has been sitting on your desk for 11 days. You know this because you put it there the morning after Marcus Webb's daughter went missing, and you haven't touched it since. It's not superstition exactly. It's more like a promise you made to yourself without realizing it, that you won't move it until you find her. The ceramic has started to stain the wood in a pale ring. Your partner, Delia, mentioned it twice. The second time, she didn't say anything at all. She just looked at it, then at you, then walked away. That was worse. Your name is Detective Ray Casson, 14 years on the force, 12 commendations, 1 divorce, 2 kids who call you on alternate Sundays if the weekend wasn't too rough and the guilt didn't make you screen their calls. You are by most measurable standards a good detective. You find people, you close cases. You understand how predators think because somewhere along the way you stopped being afraid of that understanding and started using it like a tool. That shift happened gradually. You didn't notice the exact moment. You never do. The Webb case is different. It shouldn't be a missing 14-year-old, no body, no ransom, a father with a history and a neighborhood with too many faces that won't hold your gaze. You've worked worse. You've worked cases where the ending came in pieces inside garbage bags. But something about the photograph on the file, the way the girl is mid-laugh in her school photo, one eye squinted from the sun, has lodged itself somewhere behind your sternum. It presses when you breathe. It pressed at 2 in the morning last Thursday when you drove past the school for the 4th time and sat in your car watching a custodian sweep an empty hallway under fluorescent light. You are not sleeping. This is relevant. The first identity erosion comes quietly, the way most things that matter do. You are in the interrogation room with a man named Doyle Fitch, low-level, known associate of the Webb father's former dealer network, nothing that should connect him to a missing girl except your instinct, which is currently louder than anything else in your life. Fitch is cooperative in the way guilty people are when they're not sure what you have. He leans back. He uses your first name even though you never offered it. He smiles with his teeth in a way that makes you think of a dog deciding whether to bite. You have nothing on him, technically, and yet you sit across from him for 47 minutes, and by the end of it you have told him with absolute calm that you have a witness who saw him on Branford Street the night Lily Webb disappeared. There is no witness, you know this. Fitch doesn't, and the way his jaw tightens, just barely, just for a second, tells you that Branford Street means something. You file this away, you don't file the lie. In the hallway after Delia falls into step beside you, she asks how it went. You say Fitch is hiding something, she asks what you got. You say enough to push harder. She nods and you watch her face for signs that she heard what you didn't say, but Delia is tired too, and sometimes exhaustion is its own kind of mercy. You go home. You sit in your car in the driveway of a house you're renting because the house you own went to the divorce settlement. You eat a gas station sandwich in the dark, and you listen to the radio until a song comes on that your daughter used to hum in the backseat on long drives. You turn it off. The silence that follows feels inhabited. You go inside and stand in the kitchen and think about Lily Webb's photograph for so long that the refrigerator clicks off and the room goes entirely quiet, and you realize you've been standing in the dark for 20 minutes. Your phone buzzes. A text from your lieutenant. Fitch lawyered up. Back off for 48. You stare at the screen. The thing in your chest presses harder. The controlled system you operate within is not cruel. It is simply slow. It has rules that were built for the average case, the average perpetrator, the average timeline. But there is no average timeline when the missing person is a child. Every 48-hour pause is not procedural to you anymore. It is a door closing. You know this feeling is not entirely rational. You know it and you feel it anyway, and the gap between knowing and feeling has been widening for months in ways you haven't told anyone, including yourself. The symbolic object appears on a Wednesday. You find it while canvassing the neighborhood around the Webb home, a red mitten, child-sized, snagged on a chain-link fence 2 blocks east of where the girl was last seen. It's probably nothing. Probably lost by a different kid in a different moment on a different day. The evidence log would say, Item 47, red mitten, no forensic value, catalogued and stored, but you photograph it anyway. You photograph it 7 times from different angles. Something about it, the way it's still holding the shape of a hand that's no longer inside it, won't let you look away. You start carrying the photograph on your phone. You look at it between interviews. You look at it at red lights. You are aware this is the behavior of a man losing his relationship to proportion, but you frame it differently inside your head. This is the behavior of a man who still cares, who hasn't gone numb the way the system trains you to go numb, who refuses to let a girl become a case number while the 48 hours expire and the trail cools. That framing is not entirely wrong. It is also not entirely safe. The first compromise crystallizes on a Friday night when you access a restricted database using Delia's login credentials. Credentials she gave you 6 months ago during a different case when her hands were full and the clock was running and she said, "Just use mine, it's fine." She didn't mean use them whenever the bureaucracy slows you down. You know that. You use them anyway. You pull Fitch's financials, his phone tower pings, a partial contact list from a warrant that was issued for a different investigation entirely. Technically, none of this is legal. Technically, you are now standing on the wrong side of a line that used to feel distant. You find a number, a location, a warehouse on the industrial east side that Fitch called 4 times in the 72 hours surrounding Lily Webb's disappearance. You sit with this for a long time. You think about the right way to handle it, the report, the chain of evidence, the lieutenant, the warrant process. Then you think about the red mitten holding the shape of a hand. You close the laptop. You pick up your car keys. The night outside is cold. You drive east. The warehouse smells like rust and standing water and something chemical underneath both, the kind of smell that gets into the back of your throat and stays there. You tell yourself you're just looking, a visual survey. You won't touch anything, won't disturb anything, won't compromise a future chain of evidence. You tell yourself this the way you used to tell yourself you'd have just one drink after the divorce papers came through. The self-negotiation of a man who already knows what he's going to do. There are 3 rooms inside. The first 2 are empty in the way abandoned spaces are empty, not vacant, but hollowed, like something was present long enough to leave an imprint in the air. The third room has a folding table, a sleeping bag rolled into the corner, and a child's backpack hanging from a nail on the wall. The backpack is purple. It has a keychain shaped like a small silver moon. You have seen that keychain before. It is in the evidence photograph from Lily Webb's bedroom, hanging from the zipper of the bag she took to school the morning she disappeared. You stand very still. Your pulse is doing something uneven and loud. This is real. This is confirmation. This is also an illegal search conducted on falsified access credentials at 11:40 at night with no backup, no warrant, and no official record that you are here. You understand in this moment that you have found something real and made it almost entirely unusable, and the weight of that realization hits you somewhere between the throat and the stomach. You photograph everything anyway. The second identity erosion happens in the parking lot outside, sitting in your car with the heater running and your hands not quite steady. You call an informant, a man named Curtis, who has fed you reliable information for 6 years in exchange for your selective blindness toward his smaller operations. You have always told yourself this relationship is controlled, that you are the one managing it, that Curtis is a tool and not an arrangement. Now you ask him to source the warehouse lease records through unofficial channels and have them in your hands by morning in a form that can be presented without a digital trail leading back to Delia's login. Curtis says, "That's a new ask, Ray." You say, "I know." He says his usual rate won't cover it. You say, "Name it." You hear him breathe. You drive home. You do not sleep. You sit at your kitchen table and you look at the photographs on your phone and you think, "I found her backpack. I am closer than anyone else." The system would have taken 3 more days to get here, and 3 more days might be the difference between finding Lily Webb alive and finding her the other way. This logic is not wrong. This logic is also how every detective who ever crossed a line explained it to themselves at the kitchen table at midnight, and you know that too, and the knowing changes nothing because the backpack is real and the girl is still missing, and the clock does not care about your moral inventory. Curtis delivers by 6 a.m. The paperwork is clean, cleaner than it should be, which means Curtis did something to make it clean, which means you now owe him a silence you haven't agreed to yet, but have already effectively granted by accepting the envelope. You take it to the lieutenant. You frame it as a tip from a protected source. Your lieutenant, a man named Garza who has 22 years on the job and eyes that have seen the particular texture of this exact kind of story before, looks at the documents for a long time. Then he looks at you. You hold his gaze. He looks back at the documents. He says, "We'll need a warrant based on this." You say, "Yes, sir." The warrant comes through by noon. The raid happens at 4 in the afternoon. Fitch is not there. But 2 of his associates are, and evidence technicians find traces consistent with recent occupation, and in the lining of the purple backpack, they find a folded piece of paper with an address written in a child's handwriting. The address is a cabin 40 miles north. By 6:17 p.m., a tactical unit is staged in the tree line outside that cabin. By 6:54, Lily Webb is found in a back room, dehydrated, frightened, physically unharmed. You are told this by phone while sitting in your car in the precinct parking lot. You put the phone down. You feel something move through you that is so large and so structureless that you can't name it. Relief is part of it, but relief is not all of it, and the rest, the part you can't name, has an edge to it that keeps cutting even after the good news. The third identity erosion arrives 3 days later, dressed in paperwork. An internal affairs inquiry, initiated quietly, asking about the source methodology behind the tip that led to the warehouse. Someone in the evidence chain noticed an irregularity in the lease documentation, a timestamp inconsistency, a metadata artifact that Curtis apparently did not fully sanitize. It isn't conclusive. It isn't even officially an accusation yet. It is, as the IA investigator explains in a tone of perfect bureaucratic neutrality, a procedural review of sourcing practices on the Webb case. You sit across from her and you answer questions in the flat, cooperative voice of a man who has answered many questions over many years, and you are very good at it. And somewhere underneath the performance, you are watching yourself from a distance that keeps growing. Delia finds out about her credentials the same week, not from IA, but because she runs her own access log as a habit she developed after a data breach 2 years ago. She comes to your desk and she sits down across from you and she doesn't say anything for a moment. Then she says, "Tell me you had a reason." You say, "I did." She says, "Tell me it was worth it." You say, "We found her alive." Delia looks at her hands. She says, "That's not what I asked." She gets up. She doesn't report it. She also doesn't look at you the same way again, and you understand that her silence is not forgiveness. It is the space where friendship used to be, now occupied by something heavier and less navigable. The paranoia moves in slowly, the way cold moves into an old building. You start reviewing your own case files for inconsistencies, looking for anything that could be used as evidence of a pattern. You reread your reports with the clinical detachment of a prosecutor building a case against a stranger, and the stranger keeps being you. You notice the quiet emotional scene in the break room on a Thursday afternoon, a junior detective, young, maybe 26, laughing at something on his phone, the easy laugh of someone who still trusts the ground under his feet. You watch him for longer than you mean to. You remember that laugh. You remember being the person who had it. You can't locate the exact moment you stopped. The IA review expands. A second inquiry, this one examining the Curtis relationship specifically. A colleague you trusted with a piece of unguarded conversation 3 years ago is interviewed. The walls of the controlled system you operated within are not closing in. That's not accurate. More precisely, you are realizing for the first time how small the space inside them always was, and how long you've been pressing against the edges without acknowledging the pressure. You return to your desk one evening after everyone has left. The coffee cup is still there. 11 days became 31 days, became the particular kind of object that accumulates meaning by sheer endurance. You pick it up for the first time. You hold it. You think about Lily Webb in that back room. You think about the red mitten holding the shape of a hand that was no longer inside it. You set the cup down. You open a desk drawer. You put your badge on the desk, and you look at it for a long time in the fluorescent quiet of an empty room. You don't know yet if this is an ending or just the place where the story turns. You only know that the man who put down the badge and the man who picked it up tomorrow will not be exactly the same person, and that you will spend a very long time learning to live in the distance between them. Outside, the city moves. Cases open, cases close. Somewhere a 14-year-old girl is home with her father, sleeping in her own bed, the silver moon keychain back on her zipper. The world has no record of what you traded to make that happen. Only you carry that ledger. Only you know every line in it. And the thing about a ledger you keep alone is that there is no one to tell you when you've balanced it, and no one to tell you when you've gone too far past zero to ever fully return. You turn off the desk lamp. You walk out. The cup stays where it is.